Hey, FCBC Walnut family and friends. Like we had said earlier this weekend, we wanted the opportunity to engage you through a more personal pastoral forum. And originally, the plans for this was to prepare you for the soft opening, which was going to happen this coming Sunday on July 19th. And we have been preparing for this. Thank you again for the volunteers that showed up for the training, all of you guys that have been sharing about how excited you were. But as you know, as we all do, that by Monday, Governor Newsom handed a more specific order and it closed down houses of worship and indoor activities, which then includes what we were planning to do this coming weekend. That being said, we are not in a place of despair, but we wanted to continue to talk to you. Pastor Hanley, I wanted to use today to be able to share some of our thoughts and reflections about the order, amongst other things, but also to be able to hopefully encourage you guys with some of the things that we see God is putting in front of us that's on the horizon, that's going to actually help us to grow as a church family and also does not deter us from meeting at all, but just challenges us to be more intentional in how we prepare for it. So with that, I'm going to just ask Pastor Henley this. What are your thoughts and feelings about the order that came down Monday?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I get to talk to you, church family. But seriously, uh, I feel like we're stuck, right? We're back to square one. I mean, that's my gut feeling. When I heard the order, I was actually driving, and I heard it on KNX on 1070 as the governor was giving his noontime briefing, and I couldn't believe it. I actually texted Pastor Albert personally. And I told him, hey, this is what I just heard. Is this for real? And then obviously we got a conversation going with all of our pastors. We have a group text, and I think all of us are reasonably sad, discouraged. We had so much anticipation, just like Pastor Terrence said, just like PT just said about the reopening, soft reopening this week. And again, we know everybody's at a different place, but we're so thankful for all of you who have stuck with us, even those of you who aren't planning to come back for reasons of health and safety and other reasons. Thank you for sticking with us. And I know there's so many of you that really stepped up to help with the reopening. And so all that hard work, it's not going to go to waste. We have all these protocols that are put in place that later on when we can reopen, we'll definitely apply a lot of that. And I think one of the gems is that during this season, we've seen our people pull together. We've seen a lot of unity at the pastoral leadership level, at the deacon level, at the officer level, and at the volunteer level. The disciple maker level is what we call it. So we're so thankful for all of you. My initial thoughts were, man, we really got to talk about this, and we're so thankful that we asked some of you to pray for us, because even before Gavin Newsom made the announcement, we were already scheduled today to have a pastoral retreat.
Yeah.
And originally, we were going to meet at church, and we were going to meet either in the MAC or one of the really large rooms with face masks on and doors open, and just kind of really have a time of prayer, preparing our hearts for the soft reopening, but also asking the Lord where He's going to lead us as a church so that we can serve you all well. And then the order came out. So we're saying, what's going on? But Pastor Albert called an impromptu Google meeting. So all of us who were available, we signed on, and he told us, hey, this is what we're going to do. And he actually had the letter that you all received, the email. So if you didn't get it, check your email box. And if you're on Facebook, it's also on our FCBC One, the Facebook page. The letter that went out to the entire church, he had that ready to go. So he basically presented it to us, and I commend him for his strong leadership. Really thankful that he led us really well, and timely too. We didn't wait till Wednesday or Tuesday, but he had that thing ready. We had it sent. Thank you, Nancy and Maureen, for whoever helped to get it translated and out. I think it was Nancy who sent it out to the English, and we got that out. Thank you to Gabe and our website team for getting that up, for Pastor Terrence for getting that on Facebook. And we just knew we needed to communicate. And we knew that when you received that letter, that there'd be mixed emotions. Now, my heart goes out to so many of you. I know there's some of you who are struggling. And this stay-at-home order, it's been really hard. You've never experienced a time in your life where you can't go to church. And with everything going on in this world, in our nation, globally, and specifically in California, I know it's really hard. And so my heart is with you. So right there, I felt for you. I said, man, I knew that I would see you this Saturday. If not at the soft opening, I would see you in August. And now, like, it's like we're going back to square one. So right away, we began to think and pray, like, how can we still gather in a safe way? And I think, so I do want to talk about that a little more. Maybe Pastor Terrence can, and I will mention that in a moment or so. Then I thought of everything else. And so as a pastor, we care about our medical community, our young professionals, as well as hearing about what's going on in terms of the economy. And so I know that restaurant workers are hit hard. We're with you. We feel you. We know that LAUSD and San Diego USD, they're all school is online, and a lot of the other school districts are going to follow that. And so our hearts began to feel for some of you parents, and we're like, man, what is this going to look like? And then I know that there's some of you who are nurses or doctors in hospitals that are right now being overloaded. And my heart just goes out to you. So I know that there's some of you who are listening there that, like I said, that you weren't planning to come back and you're going to take your time. And we totally understand that. At the same time, there's some of you who really needed to come back for your own emotional and spiritual encouragement. So with that, I think there's some things that some steps that we're going to take. So I don't know, PT, did you want to share anything just from the pastor's heart? I mean, how did you feel? What were your initial responses?
Yeah, on my end, it was just all very sudden. But in light of everything that's happening, maybe it wasn't that surprising. And so just seeing that God is sovereign and control of everything, we just see this as an opportunity to really check in on how you guys are doing, to be able to see where you are and to see how we can continue to walk with you. It's definitely something that we didn't expect, but it's also something that we recognize is probably needed during this time. And so, yeah, there's so much scrambling going on, I think, all around. But I'm personally grateful, like what you said about how we were ready as a leadership to pivot and to address. And we know that this is what you guys want from us and need from us as well. Not that we only lead you, but that we walk with you. And so with that, I do want to then turn it back to you and ask you for some of the things that you see are next steps for us, whether it's just immediately, even just looking ahead to this weekend, or further out. What are some of the next steps that then you see that God is presenting for us?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to pivot as fast as we can. So today we did have our pastoral retreat, but we did it over Google Meetings. We did it online, and we met for several hours. And one of the main things is how can we shift outdoors? So we want to do that. We want to do it safely. One of the things that I do want to give our church a perspective on is that there are some churches and some pastors that I'm in communication with, and please pray for these pastors. Is that they have vibrant churches, but their churches, whether it's a church plant or just a church of a medium size or large size, they were meeting in public schools. And so if the schools are closed, they had no idea, they had no date for when they could reuse their facility. And then now, who knows if, some of these school districts will ever rent in the next year or two to churches again. So some of these, pastors and churches are beginning to think about, where they can gather even when things reopen. And for us, by God's grace, we have a large parking lot. I mean, even if you space out, every other space, so every other space, we could probably fit over 140 cars or so. And
That's a
you
lot of
know,
people.
right. And so when you consider multiple family, people in cars and services, and there's no limitation for outdoor, but we want to do this safely. So what we're working on is one of our brothers from the Cantonese has an idea, and he's been doing some research on broadcasting from either inside the MAC or down at the base level. So imagine you're at a stadium and then you see someone on the stage down below, but at least you know that they're there, working on using our sound system to broadcast into a FM radio broadcast. So we have people pull into the car, pull into our parking lot in your cars,
Mhm.
and then you just tune to a certain channel that we tell you, and then it won't be too noisy for the neighbors. It won't be like we're on a bullhorn, but you just you know turn on the radio and then you can at least hear the sound. And we could do something about setting up maybe screens like the little pull-up screens all around and broadcast video. But I think most importantly, it's just the sound, being able to hear some type of a short devotional sermon, or hear one worship leader, just leading some songs. And outdoors we can actually sing. And so I envision that I know it's really hot right now, but maybe in the early morning, uh, and then in the evening you can have some type of gathering, whether it's just a family kind of service, not very professional in terms of all the full program, but something where you can see other people in their cars. So then if you have kids, or if you're over 65 or 70 years old, you can still stay in your car. But if you feel comfortable, you can step outside and just stay near your car, but not congregate where we're gonna be a liability to each other. But you can wear your face mask and just stand up. You can raise your hands and you can sing. Um, and I think it would just be so encouraging to bring people back to the campus who do want to come. So
Hmm.
I think that's one thing we want to work on. And then if that goes well, then other fellowship groups can do the same, right? Where you can use parts of our parking lot, and then um, we have to follow strict protocol for bathroom usage, but but I mean we could definitely do something outdoors. And so we're working hard right now. That's not set up yet. We don't have the FM system set up. And so I think PT and I, we want to thank you guys, as a Chinese heritage church. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do, um, that's somewhat mom and pop, like we're learning on the curve. But the beauty and strength of our church has never been cutting edge, right? It's always been the people. And so or the content, or the biblical foundation. So I think we'll get through this. I think we're gonna, in many ways, we're gonna pick up some of these cutting edge. It's not really cutting edge. Other churches are doing it already, but we'll pick up some of these things slowly, and we'll be able to pivot pretty fast. At the same time, I think PT and I understand that many of you are really needing to stay online. And so, what I want to do is I need your prayers. I really need your prayers. So I'm not preaching this Sunday. So Pastor Albert's going to preach this Sunday, and he is going to say something that addresses the recent changes, and the order from Governor Newsom, and something encouraging for all of you. And then he's going to preach from Ezra chapter 7, which does apply to our situation. But in the following week, I'm going to preach the next 2 weeks after this week. And I've gotten the blessing from Pastor Albert to go ahead and do a topical sermon. So I want to talk about how to be the church when we can't gather. So I need your prayers. Right now, the verse that comes to my heart, and I'm not one of those charismatic guys that gets like a word from God. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that what presses upon me is 1 Peter chapter 4 verses 7 to 11. So read that, 1 Peter 4 chapter 4 verses 7 to 11. And I just want to share that with all of you, the message there, and just talk about, how do we be a church actually when we can't all gather physically or in the way where we want to. What does that look like? So more than just go to small groups or sign on to small groups, but how can we still, not let our spiritual gifts go to the wayside, right? How do we exercise this? And honestly, like PT and I, we don't have all the answers, but God has the answers in each of you. And that's why it's so important that there are ways that we can all pitch in. Even if you're not coming back physically, there are ways that we need help in terms of online platform and getting things going. And so yeah, we're grateful for all of you. But those are some initial thoughts, in terms of what we want to do. I do want to share a quote with you. There's a leader from Canada, a Christian leader. His name is Kerry Newhoff, and he talks about leadership a lot. And he has this quote in a recent blog. He says, "You don't attend church, you are the church." Let me repeat that. He says, "You don't attend church, you are the church." And that's so true.
Hmm.
It's so true, because even though church is something that you go to, what happens when you haven't physically attended, if you will, in-person services for this long? And what happens if you're not attending the same type of service that we used to have for the indefinite future? You are still very part of the church. It's the people who make the church. So how
Yeah.
can we be the church, whether it's in the parking lot or online, until we can all come back safely? So those are some initial thoughts. And we would love to hear from you as well. Some thoughts and ideas. See how you guys are doing. So, PT, what about you? What are some thoughts in terms of keeping our church family connected?
Well, I really appreciate what you're sharing there about the outdoor option, just because it seems to then open up a lot of different ways by which we can continue to follow Jesus together. Like right now, if you look at the discipleship pathway, the one thing that's very difficult for us is actually congregation. We're not able to be together, and that's step one, for us to be gathered. And so we're trying to think of all these ways to make this happen. But then I think this order then not is not only meant to discourage us or to stop us, but then it's making us think outside of the box and think outside of our comfort zone to how we can continue to follow Jesus together. And so, I mean, from what you're saying, it seems like we're going to continue with the online presence that's been growing over the last few months, which I appreciate everyone that's been helping to make our online services and our online videos happen. We can't do it without your faithfulness every single week. But then we're going to try some new things. And even as you're sharing about an outdoor option, whether it's FM or something else, I mean, then we could think about other ways that we could be faithful to Jesus, like maybe even baptisms, right? Those would be wonderful opportunities for us to baptize many people that have indicated and gone through the class and just want to follow Jesus, but now we might be able to do it. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm thankful for our membership director, Rwanda, and I think we've all been talking about these things, and we're able to have our members transfer, right? I mean, that's pretty simple to do logistically online,
End of this
but
month. End of this month.
the end of this month, right? But I think what's really hard for us is the actual physically, baptizing people and immersing them into water and
Mm.
doing that where everyone feels safe. And so, but at the same time, we need to find a way to be the church, and so we need to be the church. We are the church, and we're going to continue. So maybe some of you can help with this, but our idea is baptizing one person each week, at least while it's warm. And if we have these outdoor services over, some on Saturday, some on Saturday morning, some Saturday evening, some Sunday morning, some Sunday evening, we have to. So here's the challenge, right? Think of COVID-19 and perception. We want to be able to have water with some minimal chlorine where it's only one person using it. So it's not like 10 people go in one service, then the next service 10 more people go in. And so
Mhm.
we're thinking of using a portable, like we could borrow from CrossLife their portable tub. I don't know if we're still storing it for them, but or we can buy our own, or we can buy some type of kiddie pool. The biblical idea is the person needs to be immersed. And what I envision is to keep you guys safe is that the pastor could wear a mask. This is all outdoors. The pastor can also wear a face shield. And then the person who's being baptized, I don't know if this can be done, but like there's nowhere in the Bible that says you can't wear scuba gear, right? So wouldn't that be like the safest thing? Like you're the only one that's ever been in the water. You're wearing a wetsuit. You have a full-on face mask. It's a scuba gear face mask, and you're breathing oxygen, and if I don't even have to touch you. I can just stand right over you from the outside, or Pastor Terrence, and we can say, okay, lay down, or have your family member immerse you. But I'm like right there administering it, right? That would be a legit baptism. Now, some of you laugh, like maybe we don't have to go to the scuba gear. I mean, even that you got to sanitize it each time. But what I'm trying to say is there are creative solutions for us to do baptism, on our campus, in our parking lot, with a pastor, with the candidate if they feel safe, with all the measures of safety, except for maybe 6 feet, at that moment. But if again, that's why I'm thinking of the scuba gear. So if you guys have these items, or if you have like a really big kiddie pool that we can
Or like a
use,
trough that we could use.
or a trough, these are ways where we want to baptize our people. This is Jesus's command. This is his ordinance for the church. And I don't think we could wait for and I say this respectfully, I don't think we could wait for the government guidelines to say. The government guidelines are not going to say, okay, Baptist churches, now you can immerse your people.
Yeah.
So we're not going to wait for them. We're gonna obey the law, though. We're gonna legally try to do what we can outdoors. And so pray for us on that. But yes, it'd be awesome if we can baptize our members,
Yeah, so
our
we
member
hope you guys could
candidates.
see. We hope you guys could see just how excited we are at the opportunities that are ahead of us. And even though some obstacles kind of stand in a way. But you know what? We're going to keep trying. And with your help, we're going to do this together as a church family. I mean, in the meantime, we still have our leadership training going in our 3 tracks, you know, with the students and with the children's ministry and the groups leaders. We're transferring members in at the end of this month. There's going to be some testimonies that you're going to hear this Wednesday. If you join our prayer meeting, there's 2 more testimonies. And we're thinking of ways to continue to reach out and serve the community. So yes, we are safe at home. That's what we're told to do. But that doesn't mean that we can't be faithful in following Jesus and have a little fun in doing it. Have a little imagination in doing it, and have a little creativity in doing it. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love hearing it.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes.
So I want to give you the closing word here. As we're looking towards the end this weekend, what do you think would be a helpful prayer, or just kind of like a heart posture for us to God? Because there's so much happening, and you know, we get social media, we get news coverage. People are in many ways telling us how to think, or maybe how we should feel. But you know what? We want to go to God's word, and we want to turn to God to make sense of all of these things. Like, what's something that would be on your heart that you would want to encourage our church family with?
Yeah, I would say remember that Jesus is the head of the church. And he promised that nothing can overthrow his church. And not even the gates of Hades, right? Because of the message of the gospel that Jesus accomplished for us. So we need to look to Jesus. He sits on the throne, no one else, not any governing order or governor or president or anybody else. It's Jesus. And there's a lot of people in the church right now globally that are suffering from different types of trials, but everyone is going through this together. And so what I would say would be to look to Jesus, do not lose hope, and along those lines, be patient with us. We covet your prayers. Everything was everything we were preparing for was the soft opening, was the soft reopening. So now we're going to pivot. So rather than live stream, we're going back to just scramble, to Pastor Albert being pre-recorded, to Ray Tay being notified yesterday that we got to have something. So he's going to work hard and either there's going to be something up there for you.
Yeah.
And so we're pivoting as fast as we can. And so if there's any tech issues, we're still trying to work through that and figure those things out. So we understand that, and we understand that even this Sunday there were some things that could have been improved in terms of in terms of the video and things like that. But what we know is that the people working behind the scenes are working really hard.
Yeah.
And these are all volunteers. They're volunteers who commit so much time, and we're so thankful for them. So we kind of see what goes on behind the scenes, and we're thankful. And so be patient with us, please, but also be sober. I know that there's certain pastors and there's certain Christian leaders speaking different things. So there's some people who are probably really happy and saying, oh yeah, we should never reopen. At the same time, you're going to have the opposite end. You're going to have people saying that being really angry at the governor, being really angry at saying that this is all part of Satan and the liberal agenda. No, I don't know what Satan is doing, but I know what Jesus is head of the church. So I think it's not so much, I'm not so much saying don't have discernment and don't recognize that there's powers and principalities at play, that sometimes the enemy will use different structures in society and different agencies to challenge our faith. But what I am saying is that let's be sober, and let's be reasonable, and let's not become angry, overly discouraged, or let's not lose hope. There is hope, and our hope is in Christ, and our hope is in the good things. And so some of the things that I would share with you once again is that during this time of pandemic, it is amazing how, the unity of the pastors, that we can make decisions really quickly. We're all on the same page. We're all feeling this outdoor thing, and we're able to shift, and people are willing to step up and help. And another thing I want to encourage you guys about is that understandably, a lot of churches are going through financial pressure. There were some things financially for us where we saw a drop here and there. But what I found out was that even though offering dropped at certain points, it was more about people not being used to giving online. But then once that pivot happened, more and more people either started giving online, or some of you began to send your checks in. And so even financially, like the Lord has been good to us where we actually can make a pivot and do all kinds of different things. We can serve you with those resources. And so I want to thank you. Like when I shared with you about our budget, about our missions budget, and some of you didn't know that that doesn't just normally come from the general fund offering, that there's a special fund for missions, and you asked. And I know that a lot of you gave, just by us letting you know, here's a need. And so we don't take any of that for granted. And what that shows PT and I is that this is a wonderful church. That shows us that it's not because we're awesome pastors or that our church is better than any other church, but it shows us that you guys are Jesus's people. We are Jesus's people. And as long as we are Jesus's people, our King is going to lead us. Our shepherd is going to guide us. And so in that sense, my heart is ready. I'm ready to hear what Pastor Albert has to say this Sunday. Just we're ready to be together, corporately online, even though that's not what we hope for and that's not what we plan for. So many of you, we'll see you guys Wednesday night at prayer meeting, where we'll definitely pray. But our hope is in Christ. And so that would be what I would close with. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said, the quote that you mentioned about how the church is the people, and just to encourage all of us to remember to continue to invest in people. So if you're parents, continue to build those relationships with each other and with your kids. If you're in student ministry, continue to reach out to your youth. If you're in mentoring or any other kind of, single gender ministry or community groups in which you're connected and responsible in your commitment to people, invest in those, because at the end, we want to regather and go back together. It doesn't mean that we go back together perfect or completely mature, but that we want to go back together because we've been connected this whole time. And along the way, we are just so grateful for you guys. We're grateful for your support. We're grateful for your faithfulness. We're grateful just for your love towards God that then always manifests itself in actions and in tangible ways of blessing other people. And so I want to close with, when Jesus told his disciples that they will know who is the world, they will know that we are his disciples by our love, that we would freely exercise and pursue that. And one last thing is thank you for showing up at the Pastoral Forum we had a couple weeks ago. We hope to make that something that will continue our ability to communicate with you. And so, as an upcoming one is going to be planned, then we'll go ahead and let you guys know. But we want to continue to speak with you guys and share with you guys and just hear your heart and giving you a chance to hear ours. And thank you for even listening to this. This is just raw footage. Not too much of planning or organization went to this. Pastor Hanley, I just wanted to be able to together talk to you guys. So thank you just for giving.
Thank you all.